This is the Coach Tom Anthony Show on your home for Pitt State football.
To the near edge, and he's buried. Jordan Rogers was not fooled. Drops him back at the 11-yard line.
Highlights, insights, and what's next for Pittsburgh State.
Jalen Fuchs, far side return for Pitt State, has a sideline. Jalen Fuchs is going to go after a block punt for a safety. Pitt State special teams strikes again. Fuchs with a first career touchdown. It comes via kickoff return. It is 22-7. You got to be kidding me.
Here's the voice of the Gorillas, Eddie Lomshek.
Good Monday, Pitt State football fans. Welcome to our latest installment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek and Pitt State head football coach Tom Anthony with you. First time in a couple of weeks. No show last week. The Gorillas were coming off their bye. Back to work this past week. Pitt State at home 30-10 over Missouri Southern. Seventh consecutive win for Pitt State since that 0-2 start. And the dominance in this series continues. 11 straight and 30 out of 31 for the good guys. And so, Coach, coming into it, you come off a bye, and there can be some unknowns with that. We talked about a festive game. It was senior day. You have Hall of Fame weekend. You have military appreciation. All this stuff goes on top of it. And so, again, dealing with some unknowns and how you're going to handle the break in the action. So, overall, though, boy, at the end of the day, this was a hard-fought game. You had the late touchdown to kind of put them away. But how'd you feel overall with Saturday?
Yeah, I was happy with the way our guys performed in all three phases. I thought we did some really good things. We knew it was going to be a challenge, for our guys offensively, just with kind of what they did on the defensive side of the ball, forcing you to have to sustain drives and move the football and stay disciplined. I thought our guys did that, all game long. We got in the red zone 6 times, came away with points on all 6 of those possessions. So super proud of the offense. Defensively, I thought our guys did a great job of killing the run was a big thing we wanted to come in and do.
Right.
I thought we were able to do that. Obviously, some of the pass game stuff I got to clean up a little bit, but man, yeah, they're a talented group, play extremely hard. I think Coach Bradley does a phenomenal job over there. We knew it was going to be a tough game. I mean, they were coming in with 4 of their 5 losses were by 1 score or less, so we knew it was going to be a tight, close game, hard fought, and just proud of the way our guys performed, and I thought our coaches did a great job of preparing them.
Yeah, that was the thing with Southern. When you look at the rankings, and I have this stuff I referenced during a broadcast. They're 8th out of 10 in this, or 9th out of 10 in rushing, and then 4 out of 5 losses are by 1 score. That tells you they have some grit to them and some scrappiness to hang in some games. You mentioned the run game, and I'll jump right to that because you allow a season low 14 net rush yards. Part of that was a season high 7 sacks for you guys. But Southern wants to be balanced because if you look at for the season, in their play distribution, they had 2 more run attempts than pass attempts for the season in 8 games. So they want 50-50 balance, and yet rushing, they were 9th out of 10. They're averaging a little below 96 yards of rushing per game. How important is that for a team that wants to run the ball, not let them get that on track?
Yeah, you want to make a team one-dimensional, no matter if they want to run the ball or not. To be able to make a team one-dimensional, it allows you kind of a little more flexibility and freedom on the defensive side. You can start doing a couple different things from a pass rush perspective, coverage-wise. So I thought our guys did a great job coming out early, and kind of eliminating some of that run game stuff they wanted to do. Defensive line, linebackers did a great job of just kind of executing the plan we had in place, and we were able to kind of limit some of that stuff.
And we'll go through the game eventually here a little bit, but you and I talked for a pregame interview, Hall of Fame weekend, Zach Dickey going in, Phil Skeppins, Coach Fran. You always have that representation from the football program, and I wanted to bring this up on the show again. People may have heard it a little bit Saturday in pregame, but you came to Pittsburgh State with no ties to the program. You obviously looked into things. You knew there was tradition here. So how important is it for your current players to get some exposure to those guys that are Hall of Famers and have a working knowledge of the guys before them?
I think that's huge. We talk so much here about the tradition and the history, and that's what makes, Pittsburgh State so special and makes our football program so special is all the great ones that have come before us. All the great ones that will continue to come after us. So to be able to get those guys around our players so they can just kind of hear from them and kind of what this program means to them. Zach was a guy, Zach spoke to our team the Friday night before the Grand Valley game. Zach's spoken to our team a couple times. Guys like Josh Latimer, Phil McCoy, Brian Hutchins, Jeff Moreland have all spoken to our team, over the years. And so to be able to get those guys back around our players so they can hear from them. And I think it just kind of gives you just a different appreciation, for what the program is, and just makes you so thankful, that those guys came before you and made it what it is. And then it's just our job, in the time that we are here as players and coaches, is to just do our best to build on that tradition and to add to it and to add to the legacy. But so cool to see all those guys. I got to meet Shane Tafoya for the first time Friday. Shane came by the facility, walked him around and his sister and a couple of his family members, and spent about an hour with him and just getting to know him. He hadn't been back here in a lot of years and hadn't seen all the stuff we have now. And so being able to get to walk him around and get to know him a little bit was really, really cool. And anytime I can get a chance to meet some of those people, it gives me a new appreciation for the program as well.
Yeah, and it's one universal thing. Some of those guys that haven't been back, they are blown away by the facilities, the pregame atmosphere. That there are people like, I go back to Harlan Hess. He talked about he started out there cooking on a Weber grill, and now you look at 10,000 people in Gorilla Village, right? And so it's awesome what we have, and no excuse not to win either, right? When you have all that stuff, so you do have to live up to it. So you were coming off the bye week. Again, everybody needs physical and mental rest. You had played 8 games. How'd you feel with your usage of the bye week and the plan you guys had?
Yeah, I was pleased. Bye weeks are always kind of a double-edged sword. Like, you got to try to balance, trying to get healthy, trying to preserve yourself a little bit for the upcoming week. So you kind of got to, find this happy medium of how much you want to get done from a physical standpoint while still allowing your guys to recover a little bit. And obviously with the momentum we had going into it, that's a concern too, as you get out of that rhythm, you get out of that schedule that you keep every week. And I thought our guys did a great job of handling the bye week. We got a lot accomplished, got some guys back healthy, and then they were able to come out and perform at a high level. So looking back on it, pleased, I guess, with the way they handled it.
Well, yeah, you play a pretty clean game with no penalties, no turnovers. You kept your quarterback clean. You get to them a bunch. So there were a lot of those stats we'll go through with this game. When you talk about handling a bye week, a break in the action and practice, some guys may be held out. How important is leadership and culture there to make sure that over bye week you don't let your focus drift too much?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, super proud of our seniors, our captains, our older guys of being able to manage some of that. But I also think, our team, I think, has gotten to a point where I think they know who we are right now. They know what's at stake. They know what has to go into every week of preparation at this point in the season. So really didn't have to spend too much time harping on that. I mean, our guys know what we need to get done each and every week. They know what's at stake, and they know what they got to do in order for us to go out and win football games.
And you get into the month of November. You want to be playing meaningful games, which you obviously are. You've positioned yourself for that. Is there, I guess, talk about consistency is one thing, but is there a way to, you really have to sharpen your focus and those things?
You do, and that's something I've stressed with our team, the last 2-3 weeks is, there's no one game is more important than any other game, but as you move further along in the season, games do become more meaningful. Right, as you start to kind of get towards the end of the regular season and playoff stuff starts to iron out, games do start to mean a little more for those teams that are in a playoff hunt. Not that one game is more important than another game, but they do mean a little more, as you get towards the tail end of the regular season. And when games do start to mean a little more, there's a lot more that's required of you as a player and as a coach.
The other part about November football is like this past Saturday, it was the last guaranteed home game. You touched on that before it. And so do you see sometimes a sense of urgency set in with some of your older guys that might be in their last year of eligibility?
Yeah, I think part of that is, that's our job as coaches, is to manage a little bit of the emotional part of that. And I addressed that with our team early in the week. Like, hey, guys, there's a lot of emotions that go into senior day. I think that kind of crept up on us last year and got to us a little bit. So managing that early in the week, talking to them about it, addressing some of that. Hey, guys, this week is what it is, right? There's emotions tied to it. Last guaranteed opportunity for the 2025 football team to play a home game. Hopefully we have more opportunities to do so, but we might not, right? So let's take advantage of the potentially what could be the last opportunity for the 25 football team to play in Kearney Smith Stadium. Undefeated
at home this regular season. You mentioned last year, smacked a little bit by Central Missouri and then the playoff loss to Harding. I know you don't bring that up necessarily, and it's not about revenge, but do you think a couple of games like that were disappointing showings at home, how much of that can serve as motivation for the following year or what you had this season?
Yeah, I think anytime you lose, as a competitor, you're always motivated to find ways to get better and to fix it. And I think, people don't realize that this football team, starting this season 0-2, I mean, we were sitting 1-4, in our last 5 games played. So for those guys that were around last year and then back into this year, I think there was a little bit of, just a kind of a chip that goes onto your shoulder. Some sense of urgency definitely has to kick in. When you start the season 0-2, you kind of put your back against the wall the rest of the way out. So again, super proud of our players, super proud of our coaches and the way that they've responded, coming out of last season and then even to the start of this season, just kind of where we were at and how far we've come, and so much more we still have to do, right? But super proud of just the program and the coaches, the players, the community for continued support. I think that doesn't get talked about enough as well, man. Like when you're facing some adversity, to have the support, have people have your back, I think is that brings you a sense of confidence as well.
The other thing about teams that when you have a rough patch, that if you say you're 0-2 or whatever at any point in the season, the old saying, right? Good teams are coach-led, great teams are player-led, championship teams, that's one characteristic. How much do you talk to your team captains about accountability and making sure you're a voice for the players, because it means something different coming from a player to a coach in terms of addressing the team?
Yeah, definitely. I think our guys know that. I spent a lot of time with that this offseason because, again, coming out of the 2024 season, going into 2025, it was going to be the first time in my time around the Pitt State football program that we didn't have a returning captain. Right. So we had all new captains, all new leadership. So spent a little more time with that this offseason, kind of early in the season a little bit, but it's been so cool to see over the last month and a half, those guys kind of take the reins on some of that. Have called a couple player-led, player-only meetings, in the last month. Just I don't know what's talked about in those. They don't tell me. I don't want to know, but love to see that type of stuff. Our leadership step up and take the reins on some of that.
Well, the Gorillas, it's been good as far as the win streak, the momentum right now, 7 consecutive wins, 2 monster games remain in the regular season. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, our player segment, we're going to visit with linebacker Stephen Ward. Then eventually we'll go through the Missouri Southern game with Coach Anthony. More of the show right after this.
The Silverback Fund just helps us go above and beyond to be able to be the best in the MIAA.
You see it as a financial investment, but it's really an investment in people, which is what Pitt State's all about.
We recruit at such a high level. We are competing against a lot of Division I's now. What's going to set us apart and have us in the conversation is the financial part of it.
We couldn't have this success without individual donors, without the community support.
If you're on the fence about giving, come out to games, look at the athletes and see what kind of experiences they're getting.
Welcome back to the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek on this Monday with our player guest, linebacker Stephen Ward. Pitt State coming off the win over Missouri Southern. Again, you may be listening to this on the Monday after the game. Don't forget Wednesdays at noon. Pitt State Athletics will release a video installment of the show through their YouTube channel. Always good to talk to our players, of course, and get their perspective on things. And this guy right in the middle of a lot of it for Pitt State. Hey, thanks for being here, you guys. Coming off the win over Southern, obviously 7 consecutive wins, which is nice, and momentum for kind of the stretch run here. Talk about where you feel this team is overall.
So I usually talk about this a lot whenever I get to talk to an interviewer or a camera, but this builds confidence in our guys, and that's something we've needed because we came off of 2 losses. We didn't have a lot of confidence, but we got together with some of the older guys, the captains, and we said, how can we become better? We wrote down some things, and we said if we do the little things right, we can do the big things right. We can win games, and it's obviously worked out for us. These past 7 games come off a winning streak, so just that confidence of winning these games just propels us forward.
0-2 start, and so much was talked about the early season schedule. Going to Ferris, Central Oaks defending league champ, going to their place before you get a home game. Where would you start in this team that you feel maybe a connection or whatever it is that did not allow things to spiral from being 0-2?
So, okay, Pitt State is all about being together. Since I've been here, they've invited me into a brotherhood, and you don't see that a lot of other schools. Mm-hmm. You see kind of cliques around the team, but we don't have that here. Everybody loves each other, we care about each other, and we play for each other. And that's kind of what we emphasized going through those first 2 games. Hey, we didn't play for each other, we were playing selfishly. Like, we just put all phases together and play for each other, and that's how we beat other teams.
A lot to talk about with you from Nixa, obviously kind of in the area. Transfer from Missouri State, but so you kind of stay close to home, Springfield, a couple of years there. What was your time like at Missouri State?
It was a up and down roller coaster. Mm-hmm. My freshman year, I was excited to be there. I ended up playing as a true freshman. I had some all-conference honors on special teams. I got to play some defense.
Okay.
And then my second year, they brought in some more transfers. I was 17, 18 years old and having to beat out 24, 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
So that was a difficult time for me, and I wasn't ready for that because no one has ever said, hey, you're going to have to compete with all these older guys because it hadn't happened before. This was COVID and kind of ruined those last 2 years of my college career because I was so far behind. Sophomore year, I decided to redshirt. I was like, hey, coach, I don't see myself playing a lot, so I want to redshirt, develop my skills, come and be better for you next year. So redshirted, I ended up tearing my labrum during practice one day, had to get surgery, was out my whole sophomore spring. Came back a whole month early because I dedicated myself to come back like, hey, I want to play football. Like my dream is to play college football, and I'm going to do that. Junior year comes around, have a great fall ball, and my coaches told me, hey, you're going to play. And I was excited. I was like, okay, I finally earned this. Go to my head coach's office, have my exit meeting with him for after fall camp. And he's like, yeah, you did what you had to do. He was just it seemed like he was disassociated from our meeting and wasn't all in it. So, I took that with a grain of salt. I was like, hey, I can just play and do what I can. Obviously, I ended up not playing a lot. I had like 30 snaps of defense that whole year. Played a lot on special teams, still did well on that. That was what I was, going to do for the team. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was unhappy with where I was. It had me falling behind in the classroom, and as a pre-med major, that can't happen. So I had to get out of that environment. Billy Wolf and Jackson Young are two of the guys that helped me get here. I said, hey, I want to leave here. I'm not very happy with where I'm at. They talked to Coach Nutt. Coach Nutt reached out to me after I entered the transfer portal, and the rest is kind of history. I've been here since January 2024, and I found a home here and a brotherhood.
So when you looked at moving, and those guys, you're talking about some Springfield area guys, you have that connection a little bit. What do you remember when you came here, your early impressions of the program? And you were here for spring ball, which was helpful, but what do you remember, just your early impressions of the culture they had in place and just everything that you were looking for?
So I was a player that had a lot of anger built up. I would, if I didn't make a play, I would get really mad, maybe throw my helmet, but the coaches here, they didn't have that. Coach Nutt brought me into his office, said, hey, I want you to talk to me, what's going on. I kind of explained to him, I felt like I had a chip on my shoulder and had to be perfect, or else, I couldn't be great at the game I love. We talked for a while, and that kind of flipped a switch in me, hey, I don't have to be perfect, I just have to, work to the best of my ability. And I gradually built on that, and Coach Ant helped with that, all the other coaches helped with that. How should I say this? They build up a confidence in you as players. And when a lot of other coaches, at Missouri State, if you mess up one time, they'll never talk to you again. But here, the coaches talk to you no matter what. They tell you what you can get better at, tell you what you need to do to, get on the field and play. So
yeah, and Stephen Moore with us here, Pitt State linebacker on our player segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. So where would you start in the difference this year? Now you have a full calendar year under your belt. It's your senior season. Talk about where you feel you are, comfort level this year, and your role on this team.
So I feel like I'm comfortable with what we got going on here. I'm comfortable with the spot I'm in. The first two games I was playing a little bit of will linebacker because Zach got hurt.
Right.
And we tried to move some freshmen in there, some of the younger guys to play that Mike backer spot, and it didn't go how we wanted it to. So we moved some pieces around. Now I'm playing Mike backer, and I'm comfortable. That's what I played in high school. I was always a strong side linebacker, and now I'm able to do, what I want to do as a defensive player. And I think having the role as a captain has helped me because it kind of puts a little pressure on me to be the best I possibly can be.
Yeah.
I've had some times where I've left some things out on the field, but I think I've been getting better with that every week and building on, what I did better the week prior and what I did not so well the week prior, and just kind of fix those things as I went along.
Being from Nixa and outside of Springfield, right in the footprint of the MIAA, did you feel like you had pretty good familiarity with the MIAA and some of the programs?
Honestly, no. Out of high school, I didn't really talk to any MIAA coaches. I talked to Jody Owens, who was the linebacker coach at that time, for a little bit, but I was never offered. I don't know if that was because of COVID or whatever else that was, but after I got my offer from Missouri State, those Missouri State coaches kind of pressured me into committing. So I kind of didn't develop my relationship enough with, Coach Owens and the Pitt State coaches. So I really didn't have any prior contact with any other MIAA coaches.
And your younger brother's on the team. So
Yeah.
what's that like for your family and friends? I assume you guys have some people come over for home games. What's that like getting to play with your younger brother again?
So the first couple of years I was in college, they would have to split, like, hey, who's going to go travel to my games, who's going to go to the Knicks games on Friday nights. But now we're not going to have that problem because everybody can just come see us play together. And it's awesome because I've been on the field a lot with my brother. He's a great ball player. He's going to continue to develop and become even better. And it's awesome to be able to, put on for our city. Knicks, we have 2 Knicks guys coming. We even have another one, Parker Mann, and an O lineman coming from Knicks, Hunter Jensen. So it's cool to have all those people come up here and support us, and they don't have to pick between two.
Yeah.
So
you are a pre-med major, obviously very demanding. Talk about that. Talk about juggling a very demanding academic major with athletics and the demands on your schedule.
So that has been probably my biggest challenge throughout college, is balancing these super hard classes and not a lot of kids take with the mental and physical demands of football. Like I said, my Missouri State career, that last season that I had there, I was struggling in the classroom because I wasn't happy with how I was performing on the field and how I was being treated by my coaches, my team. But I've learned that when I'm happy in some other aspects of my life, it takes some stress off and I'm able to perform better in the classroom. I've also had, since the classrooms are smaller here, there's not as many students, I've been able to connect with the professors more. They've helped me out a lot, especially with my journey to med school. Shout out Dr. Chung. He's helped me get that MCAT prep rolling, and I'm excited about that. Same with Dr. Ward. They've helped me through my career here at Pitt State, especially in the classroom. So,
well, very good, Pitt State. Second to none when it comes to academic success by their student athletes historically in all sports. This guy, just another example of it. Hey, thank you for being here. Nice job. Stephen Ward with us on our player segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. We'll take a break. Coach will rejoin us on the other side. Welcome back to the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek along with the head coach here. Gorillas coming off the 30-10 win over Missouri Southern. Again, a 7th consecutive after an 0-2 start. Continued domination in that series. Off to Central Missouri this Saturday, and then the big one with Northwest. They're both big that remain, obviously, just for extending your season. Never mind who you're playing or the history or any of that stuff. Coach Stephen Moore was just with us, and pretty neat story. I mean, a guy that's a pre-med major, had a transfer he talked about. He was not happy, especially his last year at Missouri State, and he's been elected a team captain. So that is a position. It's obviously a premier position on defense, and you were lacking experience there at the start of the season. It might have been the biggest question mark about your team going into the season. Where do you start in Stephen Ward, the football player?
Yeah, I think he's come a long way in his time here, not just as a football player, but as a person. And he had, he talked about some of that. When he came here, there was some issues that we had to work through, and to see his growth, over the last couple of years, see his maturity, not just as a football player, but also as a person, has been incredible. And I think that led to him being voted a team captain, right? A year and a half ago, he probably wouldn't have been voted a team captain, but the growth he had, our players see that. He took on a great leadership role for us, and on top of being a great leader, one of our hardest workers, he's also a pretty darn good football player too. So just to see his growth, just as a whole person, football, non-football, has been really, really cool to see.
As a linebacker, how much do you think he learned last year about the position? And there was going to be some experience that come with it, but just watching a guy like Jack Barkley and all the intangibles he had.
Definitely. I think that really helped him, having guys like, Zach Kanan and Barkley both playing in front of him last year, being able to see how those guys operate, being able to see kind of how they go about their day-to-day, going on, and all that stuff has been, huge for him as his growth as a football player. And then again, we were struggling there those first couple weeks at that linebacker spot, and just trying to find who was going to fit where. Obviously, a huge hit to us with Zach going down during fall camp. Going into the fall, felt pretty decent about having Zach Kane as your starting Mike, Steven as your starting Will. I thought we were going to be in a good spot, and then boom, about a week before we play Ferris, we lose Zach for the season, and then you're kind of in a little bit of scramble mode and having to play J-Raj at some Will Backer against UCO, trying to find the right pieces. And man, I think we finally got that thing settled in a little bit, and sliding Steven over to Mike, and then pumping Blake Carr in there, a young kid as the Will linebacker. He just continues to get better and better each week. And Steven, I think, feels a lot more comfortable playing at that Mike backer spot as well. So just continuing to grow in that room is going to be a huge part of us moving forward.
And when you look at Steven, now as an every down player, with his experience and the things he recognizes through film study and that, how much do you start to see just his athletic ability factor in?
Yeah, I think over the last 3 to 4 weeks, I think he's kind of taken this really positive turn. He's playing more physical. He's playing fast. He's playing a lot more confidence. And with his athletic ability, it allows us to do a lot of different things with him. I mean, he can blitz from the second level. He's strong enough to play up on the line of scrimmage. He can cover backs out of the backfield. And again, with that confidence, I think just helps elevate his play, each and every week.
He talked as well about a couple of Springfield area guys that he knew that were here and when he was looking to transfer. So you've talked about you want to make sure you have someone, right, that is some level of relationship when you start looking at transfers. How'd you feel with him as far as just being a fit culturally, everything you're looking for?
Yeah, I felt really good about it. Obviously, we've got to know Coach Perry over at Nixa really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, that Springfield area, Southwest Missouri, is really a hotbed for us. When you talk about recruiting local, we kind of think of local as an hour and a half to 2 hours around Pittsburgh, Kansas. It's not just southeast Kansas. So that Southwest Missouri over into Springfield, up into Kansas City, Tulsa, Northeast Oklahoma, like for us, that's local. So we take pride in trying to get some of those best players out of that area. Knowing Steven, out of high school a little bit, he obviously had some bigger stuff and committed early to Missouri State. But being able to get a great kid, that's always a big part of the transfer stuff too, is like, you're usually getting a good football player, but are they a great person? Are they going to be a good fit for your program? And we felt Steven, was kind of checked all the boxes when it came to that.
One thing we'll transition with that into your defense on Saturday. Talked about holding Southern to 14 net rush yards, 7 sacks. There were so many good things with that. But you had 13 or 14 guys had between 2 and 5 tackles. Sometimes a guy will have a 12-tackle game. But when you think about your defense right now, do you feel like it's balanced scoring in basketball where you're having any number of guys contribute and talk about the depth maybe you've developed there?
Yeah, I think when you look at our defense right now, I think that potentially is what can make us kind of dangerous, is just our depth at all our positions, right? Defensive line, we're 2 to 3 deep everywhere. We're able to play so many different guys on the secondary. We have all of our older guys with experience, but then, man, we got a ton of these younger guys that are stepping up and playing well for us, like Spencer Ward, Quentin Kirby, Quincy Minor. I mean, Q Kirby and Quincy Minor are both true freshmen playing for us this year. So be able to have some of those young guys step up to help us there has been huge. And then obviously, our linebacker depth as well, being able to play a lot of young guys right now has been huge. So yeah, we're probably not ever going to have a guy that has a 10 to 15 tackle game, just because we're not going to have a guy that plays that many snaps to get that many tackles, which I think is advantageous for us.
Yeah, guys, stay fresh. You roll them through there. Coach, Northwest win, a little bit of a factor on Saturday. We were talking there on the field before the game, and you're out there, and I always watch the kickers early and go in each direction. I know you worry about that stuff too, but you win the coin toss, which was good. You told us you mixed it up, right? Sent some guys out there to
senior day, it's kind of become a thing the last couple of years that our captains like to send out other seniors, that aren't captains. So we sent out a couple of guys that had never been out before, and they came running out and said, "Hey, you all might be going back out, next week." But we finally won the coin toss, and we knew if we won the coin toss, we were going to defer, so that way we could control which way we'd had the win there in the first quarter.
Well, it drew it up beautifully, because there's no question one factor in this game was field position, and early on, Southern first 2 possessions, their own 11, their own 21. So 3 and outs, and you're making them punt into the wind from inside their own 20. So talk about defensive field position early in this game.
Huge. I mean, obviously the kickoff team did a great job. They're setting the tone to start the game. I mean, Hayden had a great kick, and they chose to bring it out of the end zone, and we tackled it inside the 15. Anytime you can put your defense out there with a heavy wind in the offensive face, backed up, it's going to be good for you. And we were able to get the ball back, good field position, offense capitalized, and we were able to go up, 2 scores there, with that heavy wind at our back early on.
Yeah, and it doesn't guarantee anything. 14-0 in the first quarter. There are a lot of sayings about the 2-score and 3-score rule. You don't want to violate the law of assumption, but How pleasing is that 3-and-out score to see that early complimentary football?
That's huge, especially when you're playing a team, like Missouri Southern, who isn't necessarily a tempo type team. They aren't necessarily going to go fast, spread you out, and try to score a lot of points quick. They're kind of one of those old school teams. They like to control the ball, control the clock, play good defense. So we knew if we could get up a couple scores on them early, that it would put us in a good position to potentially win the football game.
Yeah, that first drive you started at the Southern 36. There was a fumbled punt return, but kick catch interference on the Lions, obviously a part of that. So you guys cover it up. Jacoby Smith, get him in the end zone. First time in his career on senior day.
Yeah, it was huge. It's so good to see. Jacoby's role has really stepped up this year. And he's helping a ton on special teams, but also is kind of becoming, kind of our one of our primary backs, especially with Cleo and Zamari being banged up a little bit the last couple of weeks. Jacoby's seen a heavier load from a running back standpoint and been doing a great job for us the last couple of weeks. And so cool to see a guy who spent so much time in your program, kind of gone through what we call the process, the red shirt, to sit a little bit, to special teams. Now kind of seeing his role amp up offensively as last year and be able to get a kid like that a touchdown on senior day is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's an awesome story because this day and age, so many are quick to jump into portal or whatever if they're not playing. Here's a guy that, he wasn't even on the travel roster for a couple of years or whatever it was. What I noticed too, third down back, people hear that term and yet he'll be out there. Is there something with him as far as pass pro, some stuff you really like on the third down?
Yeah, well, I think, number one, he's tough. Jacoby was a kid that when we recruited him out of high school at Adele City, I actually wanted him on defense. He played some safety, played some running back, caught the ball really well out of the back. He kind of did a little bit of everything in high school, and I got override by Coach Wright, the head coach. Like, we're going to take him on offense. So then we had to go a different direction a little bit. But Jacoby's a phenomenal athlete, and I think that's what his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, his toughness and his strength to also help in pass protection. I think that's one of the really cool things to see right now about our running back room is all those guys run the ball well. They're all physical. They pass protect well, and they all catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield. We talk about Jacoby, Zamari, Cleo, DV, all those guys. We can kind of roll all those guys through there, and there's no drop off kind of in any three of those phases in terms of running, protecting, and catching the ball.
We talked earlier about linebacker being a question going into the season. Running back as well. You knew what you had in Cleo, fifth-year senior and experienced. And then here's Zamari, a first-year player. He was not here in the spring, didn't get here until the summer. So take me back to the start of the season. What were your thoughts about your stable of backs?
Yeah, I had the same concerns you did, just the depth and kind of we'd lost a lot over the previous couple years with experience. Knew we had something in Cleo, but then being able to find Zamari, over the summer. And again, it took Zamari a couple weeks, similar, when you look at those first 2 weeks of the season, even JB, Zamari, some of those kids who maybe missed spring ball, JB missed with the knee injury or got here in the summer, a couple of those older wideout transfers. It took them, fall camp and even into the first 2 weeks of the season to really get used to what we were doing offensively, learn the terminology, learn all that type of stuff. And man, you've seen some of those guys just, take off over the last couple months. Guy like Zamari, JB just continues to get settled in more and more each week. To be able to see some of those guys, TJ Atkins, another kid, senior day has his first touchdown catch. He's a kid that wasn't here for spring ball either. So I think those guys each week are just getting more and more comfortable with the offense.
And with all that said, it all still starts up front, right? Talk about where you feel you are with the O-line in terms of consistency.
I love it. I think in my time here, and again, this is just my opinion, I think this is probably the best offensive line we've had, just in terms of continuity, physicality, athleticism, and thankfully we've been able to stay somewhat healthy. But man, I think those five guys are doing an incredible job right now. And then there's a couple guys sitting behind them that are just as capable. We saw that a few weeks ago against Washburn.
Right.
A couple of those guys go down, and here comes 2 or 3 more bodies rolling right through there. So credit to those guys in the way they're playing. It also, I know I've said this multiple times, it also helps to have a O-line coach that's been doing it for 43 or 44 years. OG's been coaching O-line longer than I've been alive, so I think we're very blessed to have such an elite offensive line coach as well.
Bill Blyle he's coached college football like twice as long as some of his seniors have been alive.
Yeah.
And so that's an amazing story. There's no substitute for experience, as they say. Your second touchdown, end around hand sweep to Karan Parchman. We know about his playmaking ability. And, boy, what a running lane. Talk about that, the job of blocking that play. He just waltzed into the end zone.
Yeah, they did a great job of executing it. And then Karan, obviously made a couple guys, was able to set up a couple things there and get into the end zone. Karan's, I think that's a cool part about our wide receivers right now is we got a couple of those guys that are just pretty dangerous when the ball's in their hands. So just continuing each week to find more ways to get Karan and Grayson touches. Arlandis had an end around for us as well. So getting some of those guys touches in their hands other than just throwing them the football, I think is a huge part of our offense as well.
And with that said, as far as some of the lateral stuff, because you did not have big passing yards for 40 attempts. Jackson has a season and career high 26 completions, but it's easy to see Southern 2 deep guys all the time. So talk about your plan to attack that and when they were really not wanting to let you stretch the field.
Yeah, we knew that going in. We knew what they did defensively from a structural standpoint, that you just had to stay disciplined. You had to take what they were going to give you. We knew they were not going to allow big plays over the top. That's just how they play defense. So we knew that there were certain things we had to do. We had to attack that in different ways and just had to stay disciplined to moving the football down the field and then capitalizing if we were able to get in the red zone, which I know at the end of the day, you look at the stats, and I think we had just a little over 300 yards of total offense, but we knew that going in that it wasn't going to be a game where you had 500 or 600 yards of offense. You just had to stay disciplined, move the football, and then score points when you got in the red area, which our offense did. End of the day, we're 6 for 6 in the red zone, with points scored, so that's what you want.
You're up 14-0. Southern gets a field goal. Nice drive by them. Controlled passing game, a big part of it. They pull within 14-3, and then the fumble that is ruled a fumble, and they could be starting at your 30-yard line. Instead, you challenge it. What'd your guys upstairs tell you as far as the replay challenge there? Because that was a pretty big play. They ended up punting the football.
Yeah, that was a tough one because actually the referee cameras for the review, the end zone camera was down and not working. So our guys were able to check the MIAA network, say, hey, coach, he didn't have control. This might be worth challenging, knowing that there was only going to be one camera angle that the refs got to look at, from our sideline view, because the other 2 cameras are run down the end zones, and we knew they weren't going to see anything from that. The tight camera was down, so there was really just one angle of it, and they felt like it was pretty clear at that point. And for me, first half, if there's any chance that we can potentially overturn that thing, I want to try to do it. And if we don't, then we lost our challenge and we lose the first half timeout. But for that point in the game, with where the score was at and the field position at which that came with, knew we wanted to try to take the chance there to get that thing overturned.
It was pretty big, and because, again, Southern had points on the board, and they were going to take over the Gorillas 30. Instead, a punt. They would end up getting their touchdown to get within 14-10, but it didn't happen back-to-back real quick for momentum's sake. So after they pull within 14-10, you go down, and your final 2 possessions, we hate to use the word settle, but you get field goals. Talk about getting it back to a 2-score game by halftime.
Huge. Always wanting to finish in the red zone with points. You're not going to – it'd be great if you could score a touchdown every time in the red zone, but that's football. That's the nature of the game. So our goal as a team, as an offense every week is to be 100% in the red zone with points, right? Touchdowns or field goals. Obviously, the more touchdowns we can score, the better. But whenever we can finish a drive in the red zone with points, then obviously getting the one right before halftime, to go back up 10 points was huge. And Austin continues to be a huge asset for us and is kicking at a high level, I think, right now and doing a really good job for us.
Yeah, he's on a pretty good heater. And sandwiched in between there, I'd be remiss if I didn't make the turnover on downs or mention that. That might have been the one that maybe did Quincy Minor have a pass breakup, maybe a turnover on downs?
Yes.
Something like that. And so, true freshman really coming of age. So Gorillas up 20-10 at halftime, and it was still a hard-fought second half, eventually a 30-10 win. We'll take our next break, come back, and we'll look through the second half of that game, eventually look forward to Central Missouri this Saturday. Stay with us.
Pittsburgh State University Alumni and Constituent Relations, engaging Gorilla alumni and friends through Gorilla gatherings, family events, programming, and a variety of benefits and services. Ride with Gorilla Pride in Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Personalization available in Kansas and Missouri. Honoring our Gorilla greats and their achievements with alumni awards. Find an alumni event near you or learn more about us at pittstate.edu/alumni.
Welcome back to our next segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek along with Pitt State head football coach Tom Anthony. Gorillas 30-10 winners over Missouri Southern. Coach 20-10 at halftime. Hard fought, tone to the ball game. You were getting the ball out of the locker room. What do you remember telling your guys at the break?
Yeah, just to start fast, have a 0-0 mentality. We needed the offense to come out and put a good drive together. We knew that they were probably going to take the wind in the third quarter. So we knew that we're going to have to control the football a little bit and make sure we chewed some clock up, in order to get the win back, there in the fourth quarter.
Well, they didn't listen very well because you had a kickoff return all the way out to the 41-yard line just to go 3 and out. So maybe switch up who gives a halftime speech too, right? So, but Jalen Fuchs, another kick return, and he came in ranked second in the league in kickoff returns. I touched on the defensive field position. This had to be a game you felt the hidden yardage, that stuff, you won that battle.
Definitely. Our kicking game, we finished plus 63 in the hidden yardage, which was huge. I thought Tyler Antle did a phenomenal job all day of punting into the wind. I mean, three of his 4 punts, he was punting into the wind and did a really good job when we did send him out there of getting good field position for us, punting into the wind. So again, overall, I thought, he did a great job all day, with that, having to punt into the wind.
Yeah, Southern had very few possessions outside of their own 25-yard line, and so the Gorillas do that because even that one, his first punt of the second half, he didn't hit it great, but they couldn't catch it, and you get that roll right, and that's where punt returners are so valuable. We talk all the time about Ryan Medeiros. If you can just catch the ball, who knows how many yards you're saving. And so the Gorillas do that. But, Coach, you guys 3 and out, disappointing. Southern's at their own 14. How about your defense, 3 and out? They don't flinch.
Yeah, I did a great job. I mean, made a couple changes, couple of wrinkles there at halftime to come back out. And again, defense, I thought, played their tail off in the second half. I mean, to get a second half shutout. If you have a 10-point lead and you shut them out in the second half, you're going to win for sure. So great job by the defensive staff and our guys executing that plan.
Gorillas come back then up 20-10, and from the Southern 42 because of a short punt by Southern, Gorillas end up with great field position and nice drive. I mean, you take more than 5.5 minutes off the clock. So you're up 2 scores, and a touchdown makes it 3, but at the same time, how valuable is that 5:38 you took off the clock?
It's huge at that point in the game because, again, they have that big wind at their back, and you want to make sure you limit the amount of snaps that they can take with that wind. So, again, great job by the offense of chewing some clock right there and taking some of that momentum away.
And, again, complementary football, it's not always about takeaways and scores. You get points, you add to your lead, another 3 and out by the defense from the 12-yard line, and Pitt State still pretty good field position at their own 39. But by now, you're in the final 3 minutes of the third quarter. You get 1 first down, the quarter's over, and the pressure's really on Southern there. Talk about that from a defensive perspective. When you can take a 2 or 3 score lead into the fourth quarter, how it allows you to really dictate the terms a little more.
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously it gives you confidence. It allows your guys to pin their ears back a little bit more, knowing you have a 2-score lead. But again, just super, super proud of the offense of the way they kind of managed that win there in the third quarter. We were able to get to the fourth quarter with a 2-score lead, and anytime you can do that and got a big wind at your back, to finish out the game, it should put you in a position to have some success.
Between the two teams, 6 of the first 7 possessions of the second half ended in a punt. So you kind of settle into a tug of war, and we talked on that at postgame. This was a hard-fought game. It was tough sledding. Run game for the Gorillas, not overly productive until late to help seal the game. But Southern, they're down 20-10, so all of a sudden pressure's on them. Ryan Medeiros gets the interception. What about that play?
Yeah, great job by Rhino. We knew at some point in the game they were going to have to start opening up a little more and taking a few more shots down the field. So just always keeping our guys aware of that. Situations, formations kind of dictate some of that stuff. But again, I thought one of the coolest things about Saturday was, a lot of those seniors that have been with us for a while, even some of the newer seniors, those were kind of the guys that stepped up and made plays for us throughout the game. So that was really cool to see, Jacoby and TJ and Ryan. Jay Sharp had a phenomenal game, on the interior D-line. To see some of those guys step up and make the plays for us on senior day was really cool to see.
Yeah, because the touchdown that sealed it to Atkins and Jackson, he's rolling to his right. Talk about the work by your receivers, that when a quarterback has to break the pocket, what do you see from Atkins on a play like that as far as making sure he gets himself in a position that he can be found?
Yeah, just scramble drill. As the quarterback moves, you got to move, and then it's kind of both guys got to work together. I mean, the quarterback leaves the pocket. He's got to know that routes are going to start to break down. So he's got to also have the wherewithal to know that he might potentially have to find somebody on the fly. And, TJ did a great job of kind of getting loose across the back of the end zone right there. And then JB did a great job of finding him.
Well, the X factor here, it was an 11-yard line. And so the field is compressed, right? So talk about that is there anything special you tell your quarterback or receivers when you're in that compressed part of the field?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything special you tell them. I know from a defensive standpoint, that's what a scramble drill, when you're inside about the 15-yard line can be really tough on a defense because you don't have a lot of depth behind you. Like everything's tighter. You're not getting a lot of depth into the end zone. So you're apt a lot of times to allow guys to kind of get open behind you, running across the back of the end zone. And that's usually where you see some of those coverage breakdowns happen. When you get inside like the 15-yard line, a quarterback leaves the pocket, you just don't have all the depth behind you in the secondary that you normally would out in the field to protect you. So again, I think that's where TJ kind of found that opening.
You mentioned Jeremy Sharp, and there's no way we're not going to spend some time on your defensive line. Sam Holes had a huge day. So with Sam, here's a guy. Did he start as defensive end? Now he's playing inside for you?
Yeah, I know when Sam came here a few years ago, he was an edge guy. Sam's committed himself, into the weight room, put on a lot of weight since he's been here, and he's one of the strongest guys we have on our team. So we kind of made that move this year and moved him, interior defensive line. And boy, him and Jay Sharp had a great day, huh?
7 sacks for the team, but talk about the way you were able to just seemingly get consistent pressure with only your front 4.
Yeah, that's always good. As a defensive coach, if you can generate pass rush and generate pressure without having to send pressure, then you can play tighter, safer coverage behind it. If you get those 4 D linemen are able to generate pass rush stuff all day, that's going to be good for you. And I think, Jay Sharp had 2, Sam had 2, Eli Wilcox, had 1. So
Max Delansky.
Max and Biscuit. So all 7 of those sacks actually came from D linemen, and there wasn't a lot of pressure called. So to be able to have those 4 guys hunting all day and allows you to play a safer coverage behind it. It's going to be good for you.
Well, and the other part of it is you have to have pass rush lane discipline, and certain quarterbacks more than others. What was the scouting report against Southern's quarterback as far as his mobility or any run by design they did?
Yeah, I knew Tillman had the ability to beat you with his legs, and he did a couple times. There was a few drop back passes on Saturday where he was able to step up and gain some yards, kind of exiting out of the pocket. So just continue to stress to those guys, every drive, every possession when they come back to the bench, talking to them about their pass rush lanes. And again, those guys stayed disciplined on it. And again, a lot of times too, when you get those sacks with just a 4-man rush, it's great pass rush, but it's also good coverage on the back end too, right? When that quarterback's got to sit there and hold the ball, because your coverage is good on the back end, it allows those guys then up front to generate some sacks.
And Jeremy Sharp, here's a guy suffered an injury in the playoff loss to Harding, and at the time it did not look very good. So talk about it not being as bad as maybe once feared and what he means to your team.
Yeah, he did a great job this offseason of just, recovering to that thing and getting his body ready to go. And I think he's in a position, he put himself in a position this year just with the committing himself to that physical part this offseason that's allowed him kind of to have the year he's had, as we've moved forward.
Yeah, and the depth there, you talk about depth on defense, and you've had some hot weather games this year, and you've talked often about your D-line room, period, right? And Coach Everett, you talk about contagious personality, and he's one of my favorite guys to talk to pregame because he wants to set a certain tone. But how much do you feel your D-line reflects his personality?
Yeah, I think it's always, I think your players always reflect the personality of their coach, right? a team's going to take on the personality of the head coach. Position rooms are going to take on the personality of their coach. And, Coach Everett calls the D-line the juice gang.
Yeah.
Because that dude, he comes in at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and he's got just as much juice as he does on game day, at a 2 p.m. kickoff. He brings energy every single day, which I think you have to when you coach that defensive line, and because there's a lot of things that D-line has to do that it's kind of unsung heroes. They're not in the stat line all the time,
right.
So they just got to play with phenomenal effort, and he does a great job of coaching them to do that.
Sam Holes, your leading tackler, 5 tackles, 3 for loss, including the 2 sacks. And yeah, Coach Everett, I just think of him as spending every waking moment pounding Red Bulls and listening to Anthrax and getting ready for the tone he's going to set at practice. Because if you haven't ever been to a Pitt State football practice, Coach Everett's definitely entertaining. And let me tell you, when it doesn't go well, he doesn't just call them the juice gang. He calls them some other things too. Yeah. But it is an infectious situation. So, Coach, get this win again, hard-fought win, and look forward now. And we'll talk about Central Missouri here in just a little bit, but. You've set yourself up for this, right? How about this team and how you feel overall when you have a game like this at this stage of the season? No penalties, no turnovers. You threw it 40 times. You gave up no sacks. How good do you feel with some of those things at this stage of the season?
Yeah, I felt, coming out of Saturday, it was probably our most complete football game we played in all 3 phases. I think we've done a lot. I told our guys Friday night. We've done a lot of really good things at different times in a lot of different games, but we've yet to put together like 4 full quarters of really good football in all 3 phases. And I felt like Saturday was probably our most complete football game of the year, just from an execution standpoint. Might not have had all the big, huge plays, all the big chunk yards, all that, but man, to be able to execute the way we wanted to execute in all 3 phases, I felt like this past Saturday was our most complete game, up to that point in the season.
30-10, Gorillas win it over Missouri Southern. Again, 11 straight, 30 of 31 in the series. So the beat goes on for Pitt State. We have a couple of big ones left, and it'll start this Saturday in Warrensburg. We'll take our final break. Back to talk about Central Missouri right after this. Welcome back to our final segment of the Coach Tom Anthony Show. Eddie Lomshek along with the head coach. And Coach, 2 games remaining, right? So you've positioned yourself for big games. And, people might want to talk about, Pitt and Northwest are going to be Pitt and Northwest again, and we're going to play in Kansas City. It's going to be so awesome. But talk about staying in the present now for your team.
Yeah, you can't. I talk about every week. Every week in the MIAA is a playoff game, and you have to treat it as such. And we're getting to play a phenomenal football team. I know their record might be what it is, but another team that probably could just as easily be sitting there with 1 or no losses. Lost a lot of close football games. Super, super explosive offensively. You're talking about the number 1 total offense, number 2 scoring offense, number 1 pass offense in the league. And they obviously, based off what they did to us last year, have the ability to stress you out as a defense, can put a lot of points up in a hurry. So it'll be a big challenge for us.
Well, and you look at, number 1, they're non-con. They played Pueblo. They played Delta State of Mississippi, who's having a really good year out of the Gulf South. So you get that. I don't need to look any further than their last game. They're down 10 twice at Hayes, win that game 28-24. So they're not in the playoff race with 5 losses. But talk about a team and the dangers of playing a team on their senior day when they're just out there balling and they can play with no pressure to a sense.
Yeah, always. Anytime you play a high-powered offense, they have the ability to put a lot of points up on you. So our defense will have a huge, huge challenge in front of us this week, going on the road in a tough environment. It's always a great environment over there in Warrensburg. It'll be senior day for them. Last opportunity for their 2025 football team to play together at home. So they're going to be very motivated. Going to be motivated to knock us off and beat us. So we're going to have to play a really good football game in order to have an opportunity to win one.
Yeah, I really wish Hayes would have won that game and maybe kept them down a little bit. But you're going to be in for it. No question about that. A couple of differences with them is that, of course, we don't miss Chase and Zach Zabrowski around last 2 years winning the Harlan Hill, but they had an injury at quarterback early. They're playing a young guy, but boy, it looks like they continue to click with him.
Yeah, the Amolo kid's dangerous. He's got the ability to beat you with his arms and his legs. Big kid, runs well, makes good decisions with the football. And I think what's probably the biggest difference about their football team this year, as I've watched them on film, is now they got a guy by the name of Rich Wright running their defense.
Right.
And any time you're going to go against a Rich Wright defense, they're going to play hard, they're going to play physical, they're going to play fundamentally and technically sound. So to me, that's the biggest difference with their football team from last year, is they're totally different on defense. And Rich does obviously a great job. It speaks for itself. All the success he had at Northwest Missouri, and now he's running their defense, and high-powered, dynamic on offense, much better on defense. They do well in the special teams and the kicking game. They got one of the top place kickers in the conference as well. I think he's 11 of 14 on the year with field goals. So incredible job. And again, they probably just haven't finished a few games maybe like they'd wanted, but could easily be undefeated or sitting with 1 loss, and have the talent to beat anybody, on any given week.
Yeah, Josh Lamberson's teams, they give you so much to account for. You touched on that, and they never, ever, ever lack physical talent. You've talked to about this group when you go on the road. You get away from everything and you're just with each other. So how important is that before a game like this?
Yeah, it's always huge. I love playing at home. I love playing, in Kearney Smith, playing in the jungle, but there is a certain coolness about going on the road and just on the bus, in the hotel together. It's just you, right? It's just the guys that are going to suit up on Saturday and be out there, and it's a good time for those guys to bond, to get to know each other, and to really just focus in and lock in, just on football and on the game.
Well, the Gorillas have positioned themselves for it. And again, you want to be playing meaningful games in November, and that's what we have on Saturday. Kickoff from Warrensburg is at 1 o'clock. Our coverage on 100.7 and the KSHQ app will begin with Mike Snow hosting Gorilla Game Day at 11 a.m. Our network pregame coverage will begin at 12 noon. For Coach Anthony, for our player guest, Stephen Ward, that's it for tonight. I'm Eddie Lomshek. Thanks for being with us, and go Gorillas.